Welcome to The Social Lens, brought to you by Skoob. I'm your host, Beatrice Goodwin, and today we're peeling back the layers on something far more personal than crime scenes or courtroom drama. This is about the quiet war inside our own minds, a struggle so common, so invisible, and yet so powerful, it shapes the way we see the world and how we believe the world sees us. This isn't just a story about low self-esteem. It's a story about the lies we tell ourselves, the doubts we feed, and the defense mechanisms we develop just to get through the day. It's about how fragile our self-worth can be, and how resilient it must be to survive the expectations, comparisons, and criticisms that bombard us from every angle. Picture this: a teenager staring at a mirror, avoiding eye contact with their own reflection. A young professional brushing off compliments because they don't feel earned. A parent sacrificing everything for their family, yet quietly feeling like a failure. These aren't rare stories. These are everyday battles, and they're happening silently, behind smiles, in bedrooms, in office cubicles, in crowded rooms where no one suspects a thing. Low self-esteem doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, or procrastination, or a laugh that's just a little too loud. Sometimes it's not self-pity, it's self-sabotage. And sometimes it's not even visible to the person experiencing it. Over the next hour, we'll explore the roots of low self-esteem, where it begins, how it grows, and why it's so difficult to shake, even when everything on the outside seems fine. We'll dive into the role of childhood experiences, societal expectations, cultural pressures, and the quiet comparisons we make every time we scroll through someone else's highlight reel. We'll also meet people who've fought through the fog, who've rebuilt their sense of self, not by pretending to be confident, but by confronting the fears and beliefs that kept them small. Because self-esteem isn't just about loving yourself. It's about knowing yourself, challenging the stories you've been told, and the ones you've told yourself. So stay with us. Because this isn't just a podcast episode. This is a reckoning with the inner critic, with the quiet shame, with the voice that says, "You're not enough." Let's start with perhaps the most devastating blow to self-esteem: hopelessness. Picture this: you're standing at the bottom of a well, looking up at a tiny circle of light that seems impossibly far away. That's what hopelessness feels like, and it's one of the most insidious destroyers of self-worth our minds can conjure. Here's what's fascinating about hopelessness. It's not just sadness on steroids. It's actually our mind's way of avoiding something even more terrifying: facing our pain head-on. We perpetuate hopelessness by running from our sadness, by refusing to seek help, by convincing ourselves that this dark place is permanent. But here's the twist that most people don't understand. To transcend hopelessness, we must do the exact opposite of what feels natural. We must dive deeper into those profound emotions associated with grief and loss. We must confront them, not avoid them. I know this sounds counterintuitive, like telling someone who's drowning to stop fighting the water. But stay with me. The human experience is inherently filled with loss. We lose people we love. We lose opportunities. We lose versions of ourselves that we thought we'd always be. Accepting the gravity of these losses, or even the consequences of our own self-destructive behaviors, is absolutely terrifying. But this acceptance isn't the end. It's the beginning of awakening what I call our spiritual will. Think about guilt and shame for a moment. These emotions love to play the blame game, pointing fingers at our circumstances, at other people, at anything except the mirror. Hopelessness takes this a step further. It becomes completely paralyzed by the fear of taking responsibility for our responses to life's challenges. It's like being stuck in emotional quicksand. The more we struggle against taking ownership, the deeper we sink. Now here's where things get interesting, and perhaps a little spiritual for some of you. Breaking free from hopelessness often requires what I call the invitation. reaching out to a higher energy or external source to help shift our mindset. This doesn't have to be religious, though it can be. It could be counseling, spiritual guidance, trusted friends, or even anonymous support groups. On a spiritual level, and I want you to interpret this however feels right for you, there's something profound about inviting a higher power to give us the strength and courage we need to face our losses. This invitation is crucial because hopelessness, by its very nature, cannot move forward on its own. It's like a car with a dead battery. It needs a jumpstart from an external source. The beautiful thing about overcoming hopelessness is that it requires us to completely reframe how we see loss. Instead of running from it, we turn toward it. Instead of avoiding grief, we allow ourselves to feel it fully. And yes, this can be intensely overwhelming, which is exactly why we need help. Even if it's just someone to remind us that we're capable of surviving this storm. Here's the secret that changed my perspective entirely. Moving out of hopelessness doesn't require some Herculean effort. It starts with something as simple as invitation and curiosity. I wonder if there's a way out of this. I wonder if someone could help me. I wonder if this pain is trying to teach me something. The belief that moving forward requires tremendous effort is actually what keeps us stuck in hopelessness. The key is asking for help. That's it. Just ask. It can be as simple as a whisper to the universe. God, if you exist, please help me through this. You don't need to figure out the method. That's not your job. Let me share something that might sound like affirmation fluff, but is actually revolutionary. We can adopt a completely new narrative about ourselves. Instead of, I'm trapped, we can say, I can ask for help. Instead of, there's no way out, we can say, there is a way out, even if I can't see it yet. Listen to these words and really hear them. God, give me strength. I accept help. I accept guidance. It's okay to not know what to do. I am open. I want to live a life of passion and happiness. I allow myself to be sad. I allow myself to cry and grieve. Here's a phrase that might change your life. To feel is to heal. We've been taught that feeling bad emotions is somehow wrong or weak, but the opposite is true. Our capacity to feel deeply is our capacity to heal deeply. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through this. I can face this. Others want to support me. I am not a burden. It's okay to not be okay. All will be revealed in due time. This new narrative affirms our capacity to seek and accept support, to embrace our vulnerabilities, and ultimately, to find our way out of the shadows. Now let's shift gears and explore something Freud discovered that still blows my mind today. The difference between healthy mourning and what he called melancholia, and how this difference completely changes our relationship with self-esteem. When we're in a normal period of mourning, grieving someone we've lost, we typically don't experience a massive drop in self-regard. Sure, we might blame ourselves for not loving them enough or not spending more time with them, but our core sense of self usually remains intact. Melancholia, however, is a different beast entirely. While it looks similar to mourning on the surface, there's a crucial difference that destroys self-esteem. In mourning, we know exactly what we've lost. The person died. The relationship ended. The opportunity passed. But in melancholia, the loss is partly unconscious. We know something is missing, but we can't quite put our finger on what. Here's where it gets psychologically fascinating. Freud noticed that people in melancholic states direct intense reproaches against themselves. They'll say things like, I am a worthless person who doesn't deserve to live. But here's the kicker. These self-accusations are actually criticisms that could have been directed at the person who left them. Think about it. I am worthless and don't deserve to live is really a disguised version of, you are worthless and don't deserve to live because you left me. It's aggression that was initially aimed outward but got redirected inward, integrated into our harsh inner critic, and expressed as self-reproach and self-hatred. This is why Melancholia devastates self-esteem, while normal mourning doesn't. In mourning, we're angry at death, at circumstances, at the unfairness of life. In melancholia, we've turned all that anger inward and made ourselves the target. Now let's talk about one of the most fascinating and self-destructive ways we try to protect our self-esteem: self-handicapping. We've all made excuses after a poor performance, blamed it on a bad night's sleep, being sick, or some other external factor. But these retroactive excuses are so transparent that even we don't believe them. Self-handicapping is far more sophisticated and, frankly, more damaging. Instead of making excuses after we fail, we create obstacles before we even try. It's the student who gets drunk the night before a crucial exam, the athlete who stops training before a big competition, the executive who walks into an important sales pitch completely unprepared. At first glance, this behavior seems completely irrational. Why would anyone sabotage their own chances of success? But when you understand the psychology behind it, it becomes tragically logical. In 1978, psychologists Stephen Berglas and Edward Jones conducted a groundbreaking study that revealed the depths of this self-protective mechanism. They gave students an exam, but first offered them a drug that would supposedly inhibit their performance. Logically, why would anyone choose to compromise their chances? Surprisingly, many students took the drug. To outside observers, this seemed insane. But to Dr. Bergla, who had personally experimented with drugs before taking his SATs in high school, it made perfect sense. When your self-image is entirely tied to your performance and the stakes feel impossibly high, having a backup excuse becomes more valuable than having the best chance at success. Here's the twisted logic. If you fail while handicapped, you can blame the handicap. If you succeed while handicapped, you must be even more talented than anyone realized. It's a win-win scenario that feels emotionally safer than risking genuine failure. But here's what we miss. What's the value of maintaining self-esteem that's so fragile it can't withstand failure? We become like surgeons who are so invested in their image of perfection that they can't acknowledge their mistakes. And that makes them dangerous. Self-esteem, as it turns out, might be an overvalued psychological trait. When we're too focused on protecting it, we actually impede our learning and growth. What we really need isn't higher self-esteem. It's resilience. The ability to face failure, learn from it, and bounce back stronger. Let's shift to something that affects every single one of us, whether we realize it or not: the negative influences of others on our self-esteem. There's a saying that goes, "Never anticipate troubles, as they have a way of fulfilling those expectations quite reliably." This speaks to one of humanity's most widespread weaknesses: leaving our minds wide open to negative influences from other people. What makes this particularly insidious is that most people don't even recognize when it's happening. We think we're independent thinkers, but we're constantly absorbing the attitudes, expectations, and judgments of those around us. Even when we do notice it, we often choose to ignore it until it becomes so deeply ingrained that it feels like our own voice. I want to share some powerful self-analysis questions that can help you identify whether you've fallen victim to negative influences. Read these questions aloud. Hearing your own voice makes it harder to lie to yourself. Do you often complain about feeling bad and what causes these feelings? Are you quick to find fault with others at the slightest provocation? Does life appear futile and the future hopeless? Are you envious of those who excel beyond you? Do you spend more time thinking about success or failure? Here's a crucial one. As you grow older, are you gaining or losing self-confidence? Do you tolerate negative or discouraging influences that you could avoid? Would you consider yourself weak if you allowed others to do your thinking for you? And perhaps most importantly, do you have strategies to protect yourself from negative influence? Do you intentionally use positive self-talk to maintain a constructive mindset? These questions aren't meant to shame you. They're meant to wake you up to the reality of how much your environment affects your self-perception. The good news is that once you become aware of these influences, you can start to build defenses against them. Now, let's explore a revolutionary idea that challenges everything psychologists thought they knew about self-esteem. For over a century, the field emphasized the importance of having a positive self-view. But researcher Mark Leary asked a simple question that changed everything. From an evolutionary perspective, why would we need self-esteem at all? Leary realized that our ancestors' survival didn't depend on feeling good about themselves. It depended on being valuable members of their social groups. If you were rejected by your tribe, you died. So if there's an innate drive for self-esteem, it should really be about being perceived favorably by others. This led to his groundbreaking sociometer theory. Self-esteem functions like an internal gauge that constantly monitors our value as a social partner. When that gauge drops, it triggers an internal alarm that motivates us to change our behavior to regain social acceptance. But Leary encountered people who claimed to be completely unaffected by others' opinions. Being a good scientist, he decided to test these claims. He identified students who insisted they were entirely immune to social influence and brought them into his lab. The experiment was elegantly simple but psychologically brutal. Participants sat alone and talked about themselves for 5 minutes while supposedly being evaluated by a stranger in another room. Every minute, a number flashed on the screen, allegedly showing how much the other person wanted to interact with them. The numbers ranged from 1 to 7. Some participants received declining ratings, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, watching their supposed social value plummet in real time. Others received increasing ratings, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, experiencing the validation of growing acceptance. The results? Even those who swore they didn't care what others thought showed measurable changes in their self-perception based on these fake ratings from a complete stranger. The sociometer was working in everyone, regardless of what they claimed about their independence. So where does this leave us? We've journeyed through the darkness of hopelessness, explored the self-defeating nature of melancholia, witnessed the paradox of self-handicapping, examined how negative influences seep into our consciousness, and discovered that our self-esteem is far more social than we'd like to admit. But here's what I want you to take away from this exploration. Understanding these mechanisms isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to free you. When you understand how hopelessness works, you can recognize it and reach out for help. When you understand melancholia, you can catch yourself directing anger inward and redirect it more constructively. When you understand self-handicapping, you can choose courage over self-protection. The path forward isn't about building bulletproof self-esteem. It's about building resilience, authenticity, and the courage to be vulnerable. It's about understanding that our self-worth doesn't have to be contingent on perfection or even on others' approval, even though we're wired to care what others think. Remember the new narrative we discussed. I can ask for help. There is a way out. I accept guidance. It's okay to not know what to do. I am open. To feel is to heal. I'm going to be okay. Others want to support me. I am not a burden. Your relationship with yourself is the longest relationship you'll ever have. Make it a kind one. Make it an honest one. Make it a resilient one. That's our deep dive into the silent struggle of low self-esteem, a complex, deeply personal issue that shapes not just how we see ourselves, but how we move through the world. It's a reminder that the harshest judgments we face often come from within, and that healing begins not with perfection but with compassion. But this story isn't just about psychology. It's about survival. It's about how early experiences, cultural narratives, and quiet comparisons can chip away at our self-worth, and how rediscovering that worth is one of the bravest things a person can do. If you want to go further, to better understand the roots of low self-esteem, discover practical ways to strengthen your sense of self, and more, head over to the Skoob app now. Because this isn't just a conversation about low self-esteem, it's a movement toward reclaiming your inner voice, challenging the lies you've been told, and choosing growth over shame. Download Skoob on the App Store or Google Play to unlock the full experience. I'm Beatrice Goodwin, and this has been The Social Lens. Until next time, be kind to yourself, question the stories you've outgrown, and remember, you are not alone in this.